Three. All right, we're on Facebook and YouTube now.
Okay. Sweet.
No.
Where are you live at in Facebook?
The group.
I don't see it.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't see
Oh,
that
I
either.
might have to hit the go live button.
Yeah. That might. I told you might mess something up.
Okay, there it goes. We ain't gotta talk about that.
Oh, we're gonna. That's how we're starting off tonight's episodes with Austin's blunder. There we go.
But it's on YouTube, so
And
it's all good.
we're obviously going to be talking about Marvin Jones, correct?
Yes.
And Bijan a little bit. I was just gonna kind of run down the injuries list from game to game on this list I have. I'm gonna send it to you guys. We don't gotta talk about all of them obviously because that would take too long. But I just kind of want to pick out some big ones.
Okay.
I said in the Riverside.
You did what?
The link I'm using for the injuries sent in Riverside.
Okay. You know you started Riverside, right?
Yeah, no, I meant to
Okay.
because to go live, YouTube and Facebook got to start Riverside.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
let's just
We can
start.
trim off.
Let's,
This is
yeah,
just
so-
straight trim, is what
Mm.
what will happen. So this is editing wise, like Travis. This is super easy because it's just literally a cut right at where we want to start. So it's like a
Mhm.
10-second edit, actually.
Yeah. Super easy.
So this is a pretty easy edit.
Why don't you
Yeah,
hit us with
so-
that intro, Travis?
Do
let's go
what?
ahead and
Why don't you hit us with that intro?
right
Right
before
now?
we do, let's go ahead and double check what order we want to run this through. Week 7. Do we want to do week 7 recap before or after injury report?
After Austin
I-
said he wanted to do injuries first.
I kind of want to do injuries first just because the recap usually takes us a lot longer. And the injury recap
That's what I
is gonna be
thought.
super
I just wanted to double check.
Mhm.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
week 8 rapid fire.
Week 8
that'll
we're gonna
be
do
the
tomorrow.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I got ideas for tomorrow.
Ooh.
All right, Travis, hit us with the intro.
Welcome back into everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Sporting Lodge. We are live for the first time on Facebook and YouTube, and we're also live over at Shane's Twitch at Derpimation. He's having a freak out right now, and his camera looks like it. But how we doing, boys? How we doing, everyone?
He's having a stroke. I'm good. It was a freaking 2-3 hour workday today, so that was pretty dope.
Oh yeah, it was pretty nice out today, so I got outside with the kids. Had a good day.
Oh yeah, you went to the park.
Yep.
That's pretty
Yep.
dope.
But
Let 'em
we're here to
cook, let 'em
talk some.
cook.
Oh yeah, we're here to talk some football. Before we hop into
Oh
the
shit,
week
is that
7
what we're talking about? Fuck.
maybe
Wait.
we might.
Damn,
might
I'm in the wrong area then.
I thought this was international soccer.
I thought this was freaking cricket. Fuck.
Oh man. But before we get to this week 7 recap, Austin, you wanted to talk about some injuries that happened this week. Ooh, where do you want to start with that?
Yeah, there was a shit ton of injuries that happened, but Chris Godwin kind of started with the Bucks. He didn't participate on Monday. I don't think he participated today either. Chase Edmonds coming back from IR. Dawson Knox is about to have surgery on his wrist.
Yep, he's gonna be
So
out for a couple weeks.
he's going to be out
at
for a
least.
little bit as well. Damian Harris also just went to injured reserve, so he's going to be out for 4
IR.
weeks.
gone.
He's out for at least 4 with his concussion/back. So that's gonna be an interesting one to watch and see what happens.
Yep. And I see right here the big one, especially for fantasy wise, Kyron Williams being out now for the Rams, but being put on IR.
Yep.
That that ankle injury was a little more severe than they originally thought, but they got nothing to lose this season.
Cowboys got no one on injury report. Christian Watson down for injured knee
Packers.
again. Yep, for the Packers. He's out again.
He
Unknown
he
how
can't
long.
stay healthy.
Unknown how long that's going to be. So like, I just talked about getting off topic, but talking about Christian Watson made like Jaden Reed a lot more attractive as a pickup/trade target for me.
Yeah.
And then
He should be available in some 10 team leagues, and especially as a trade target. I think also hit the nail on the head. If you can give up a guy, like what
Dynasty.
would you give up for him, man? Dynasty, yeah, but even in redraft, I think that there's value. I think there's value to have Reed for a few weeks. I don't know how much value I personally would be willing to give up. Probably wide receiver 3 or flex running back talent to get my hands on Reed. That's about where I'd be because I think that he'll overperform on that in the next couple of weeks, reflecting wide receiver 2 numbers at least. And if that's your flex start, then that's serviceable as well, especially if you're running it over a guy like Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, man, I don't trust Reed enough to actually go too far in on it. I think he'll in that offense will have some boom games, but also has some like 4 or 5 point games as well. So it's like I like what you said, Shane. I agree with 100%. Like a wide receiver 3, I'd give up for him. And maybe like a 4th round pick in Dynasty on top of that. That's probably about the most I'd be willing to pay.
I don't know what player wise I'd give for him. I'd pay like 2 third-round picks though in Dynasty. That's probably about max I'd pay for him right now. I do. It's not that I don't trust him. I don't trust Jordan Love. That's my issue. I don't trust Jordan Love.
True.
So
like I think Reed, best value you could get. Like I think you hit it right on the head. Like 2/3 is maximum value if you own him. But if you're an owner of Jordan Reed, like this could be a really good time to sell on him. And I would personally try to get a second or a first, even if you have to throw in a bag of chips with him. Try to get that higher value trade for a guy like Jordan Reed, who could be awesome, but you're locking in draft capital. That's awesome too.
And that kind of like to counter your point, like for people that don't have him, this is a great time to try and buy low on him as well.
Yep. Because
but,
this is potentially the week. This is if you're Jordan Reed, you're looking at this week, you're like, this is my chance. And it's up to him if he's going to take the opportunity or not. And it's exciting to see.
Right. But to move on to the Falcons for injuries, Falcons Tennessee, we got Bijan, who had illness because he only had carried the ball 1 time for 3 yards and played only 11 snaps in that game. He should be fine for week 8, but that's just something to monitor, make sure nothing goes worse or there's nothing that pops up, anything like that. And then they also have Treylon Burks, who's questionable as well.
That's another guy I don't know. I think he's a bust.
You think Treylon Burks is?
Yeah, but I'm not going to say it's his fault, though, at the same time, just because of the offensive scheme there.
He's a product of his environment.
For fuck's sake, A.J. Brown was playing in that offense, man.
A.J. Brown's different.
Yeah, Treylon Burks was a mid-first round pick, though, so he should have been different, too. It's unexcusable. I don't think that's an overreaction to say that. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that he's a bust at this point. He really hasn't shown it. Like, he's been horrible at best. Like,
yeah,
it's rough.
True.
My big injury, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I was about to
for the season.
Go out to the Saints cold. I mean, shit. The way Gardner Minshew played, I mean, he has had one good game, which was this past week, and then one bad to mediocre game the week before. But if he
And
keeps
one
playing,
pretty
like,
good game before that.
yeah, so like, I think the Colts have reason to have hope this season. I think they have reasons to be excited because Gardner, I will always defend him to my dying grave. Like, he is not a bad quarterback, and he was never the problem
No.
fully. He's made some bad decisions, yeah, but I think that's kind of part of the growing pains going from being a starter to being the bench for 3 years to being a starter again. Right? I think that's just part of the process of every week. I think he's going to get a little bit better. He's never going to be a great or a superstar, but he is going
Yeah,
to be
just
good.
imagine if Gardner got on a team like the Cardinals and like just got like 2 consecutive years of starting, dude. Like it.
Mhm.
This is, I think, in our lifetime, this might be the first time we've seen this. You know, where it's like there's a guy who's like obviously talented enough to be starting for multiple teams, and he's just not getting the opportunity. Unlike Colin Kaepernick, like I don't think that counts because like that's more political stuff, you know. Like,
Right.
and also I don't think Colin Kaepernick was to the same talent as Gardner Minshew. Honestly, you know, I think Gardner's just a better talent at the end of the day. You know, and I, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like he's a top 32 quarterback in the world. There's no reason that he's not a starter for at least one NFL team. You know, and it's not like a Ryan
Yeah.
Fitzmagic thing where it's like, you know, he when you start him, he just like plays the most mediocre, safe, conservative football you ever seen. No, he's a gunslinger through and through. And, you know, it's
He
just
he
like,
wants to throw the ball. He wants to chuck it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, and he's accurate. You know, he has some accuracy concerns. Obviously, that's his biggest flaw, but he does have that gun, you know, attached to his arm, and he's able to get the ball down the field. He's able to get float on it, and he's able to. He doesn't mind running the ball too. You know, when you got Gardner at the helm, I think Gardner wins you an additional 4 games a season at quarterback, which isn't an elite number. You know, like when you're looking at Joe Burrow, you're expecting 9 to 10 wins with him starting, but like, you know, when you're talking about teams like the Cardinals, when you're talking about teams like the Broncos currently, when you're talking about those type of teams, the Panthers even, you know, like imagine if Gardner got to start this year for the Panthers instead of Bryce Young. They might have an additional win or two this year. And that's not to the fault of Bryce Young, but that's would be able to stay calm behind that offensive line.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah,
I
if
think
he's still
the
somehow
Colts are in
available
really good
in your
hands.
leagues, just picking him up. But
Yeah.
if the Anthony Richardson owners in your leagues haven't already picked him up, then you should be trying to pick him up and sell him to that team's owner.
To go to the Saints side of the ball, though, Jawan Johnson's questionable with a
Big.
calf injury.
Big.
It's unsure if he's gonna play, but Dennis Allen, the coach, hopes to have him back. So it's looking like it could happen, but too many questions. It's too soon to tell right now.
Yeah, you know, Juwan Johnson, you know, Juwan Johnson, he's the type of guy where the stats aren't jumping off the sheet at you, but he's the type of guy when he's on the field, he makes an impact. You see the Mike has to drop coverage, and you see him pick up chip blocks on the edge rusher and the Mike significantly often and clean. You know, he's that type of player where he is an impact player, even though his stats aren't necessarily reflecting it currently. He's the type of player, you know, in fantasy, like I'd be willing to hold on to him, you know, because he's going to have a game this year where I think he's going to have a stretch where like over 4 games, he's going to have 40 receptions and like 400 yards.
Right.
He
I
very well
think-
could. His
I
biggest
think-
issue has just been health so far, because
Yeah.
he hasn't been healthy enough since Derek Carr's been there to be utilized the way Carr likes to use his tight ends. Just look like the volume Waller got when they were together with the Raiders, and
Exactly. Similar
if
build
they actually
too,
get a stretch,
you know.
let's say if they get a stretch to play together where he's staying healthy for 6 straight weeks, watch out. Get a repertoire together.
Yep.
They just need to play together, get used to it.
All right. Move on to Patriots
So
versus
for reference,
Dolphins. What's up?
one last thing before we move on. For reference, talking about similarities between Johnson and Darren Waller. Darren Waller has about 1.5 inches on him and about 5 pounds. So very similar build guys, similar speed, similar route running abilities. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I just don't think that they've had that opportunity to really get that coordination going, especially when you got a guy like Chris Olave, which that is an interesting topic that I would like to touch base on at some point too.
Oh.
He just got arrested for reckless driving
Yes.
Yeah, going 35 over.
and going 35 over the speed limit. Horrible look, especially after the Henry Ruggs situation. I went back and watched that video at the beginning of the season, and it reminded me how disgusting, how disgusting the world could be sometimes. After that type of situation, you got to know as an NFL player, especially an NFL wide receiver, you got to keep your nose clean. You can't be doing this. Chris Olave is on a trajectory of
Superstardom.
he's a stardom, yeah, Hall of Fame type trajectory currently.
He could
Take the extra fucking 5 minutes to go through the residential, bro.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anyways, move on to the Patriots versus Dolphins for injuries. Juju and Kayshawn is out, but the thing that modeled the upsets me is Patriots lost another offensive tackle to fucking injury reserve. Tyron Woodley, they put on there today. And then on the 22nd, or no, the 21st, sorry, they put Riley Reef on injured reserve. So we lost two good offensive tackles. Yep, we lost two good.
Yep.
We lost the starting Riley Reef, and then his backup Tyron Whitley to injury reserve. So they're both out for the next 4 weeks at least, at minimum. So I'm really interested to see how their line looks, especially at the tackle spot in the coming games for sure. And then Dolphins don't really have anyone notable on injury wise. Jets, no one. Saquon Barkley got injured again. He hyperextended his left elbow during the game, but he actually came back into the game, so he's looking like he's going to be all right and won't miss extended time. He should be fine for week 8.
Good.
That's what reports are
I like
saying.
to hear that because he's on my fantasy team. Woo.
They're saying, quote unquote, he will be all right, according to reports. Also, Daniel Jones might not start this week. That might be the best thing for the Giants since Eli retired.
Yeah, Tyrod's actually balling, man. So
yeah,
I think they're probably wishing that they would have gave Tyrod a little 3 or 4 year deal similar to what Geno Smith got instead of coughing up the money that they just gave to Daniel Jones.
Danny Dimes, baby. Oh, where's Ben?
Oh, I know.
Where's Ben?
Let's see.
That leads us over to Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. Zay Jones down for the Jaguars.
But
That's
they're getting
pretty big
Gregory.
hit.
Their defense is getting Gregory Jr. back from injury reserve. So and they just lost. They got another corner that's questionable, might not play, so it's gonna be good for their defense. But for the Steelers, Pat Freiermuth on IR.
Yep, he's been down for a couple of weeks now. I was kind of hoping that Darnell Washington was going to step up a little bit more, but honestly, hot take right now. Like the Steelers offense started to kind of click a little bit. We'll talk about this a little bit later on in the episode when we're doing recaps against the Rams. You kind of seen Kenny Pickett making the decisions more often and more consistently, making it so, efficiency on offense is a big deal, especially with how Matt Canada wants to run this offense. So tight end's a big position for that. Darnell Washington is getting the nod, and Connor Hayward should be. So, I think, if you're down bad at tight end and you don't have a second one and you're on a bye week, Jacksonville usually struggles against tight ends. It could be a 1 week rental to go pick up Washington or Cameron Hayward or Connor Hayward, excuse me.
Yep. And then to go to Philly versus Commanders, Jalen Hurts, questionable with the knee injury, but he's not expected to miss any game time.
Expected to start.
Yep. Yeah, he came back out in the second half of this past weekend's game with a knee brace on his left knee.
Yep, so it should be good. Commanders, no injuries to report. Texans are getting Tank Dell back with the concussion. He participated today in their practice, or their unofficial practice. For the
That's
Panthers,
going to help open up that offense again.
Yep. For the Panthers, you got Miles Sanders. That's the big one that's questionable for week 8. But I believe he's trending towards playing week 8. And then Cleveland,
You go to Brown, Seattle. You got Jerome Ford.
That's
a big
if he's out, that's
he's only expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks. So it's a low high ankle sprain.
That's pretty
low end one.
That's pretty big because their rushing attack has been looking really good.
Yep, but that just means whoever's got Kareem Hunt, he's going to get work these next week or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Kareem Hunt's looked better the past 2 weeks.
And you got
Easy free agents act was
Deshaun
Yep.
Watson, who is really unknown when he's going to come back because he has been dealing with the same injury for the past like 4 weeks now or so.
he got the nod to go ahead and play 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Doctor said he was cleared 2 weeks ago.
but he chose not to. But now he's
Yep,
going.
He's
ad-
choosing not
under-
to play currently.
Now he's undergoing additional medical testing.
Oh, okay. So additional taint rubbing. I understand.
Yeah.
Fucking
Uh,
punk, dude. I hope
DK
Deshaun Watson never takes the field again.
DK Metcalf and Zach Charbonnet are both questionable for Week 8.
Zach Charbonnet, he did not end up being the threat to Walker that I thought he was going to be originally.
I told you he wouldn't be, man.
So,
They did this.
I mean, I didn't think it was going to be like a
It's-
serious threat, but I
it's-
thought he would be used more
it's-
instead of like
it's-
5 plays a game.
It's not the first
Yeah,
time.
I was expecting
the,
about.
It's not the first
I was
time the
expecting
Seahawks
about
have done
15%
this.
more.
Seahawks did this
Yeah.
with Rashad Penny and the other dude they drafted. I can't remember his name.
Who? DJ Dallas?
Same exact situation. So I'm not surprised this is the way it's going. Chiefs, Justin Watson.
Chiefs,
big one.
Broncos.
Mm.
And they put
Yep, so with Justin Watson going down, which one would you rather start? Moore or Tony?
Travis Kelsey.
That wasn't an option, my friend. I'm sorry.
I made my own option.
You don't get Taylor Swift's husband or whatever.
I'm going to go Sky Moore. I like Sky Moore.
I could agree with that. For the Broncos, we got Greg Dulcich just placed on IR with hamstring injury. So with Ravens, Cardinals, you got Zach Pesco for the Cardinals, who's questionable. And none really of
Yep.
note for the Ravens.
Nope. I'm upset with the Ravens right now.
Bengals, 49ers. No one's for the Bengals, but for the 49ers, you got Deebo Samuel.
That's huge, and
and you
they
know
missed-
what?
They missed him.
out, not questionable.
Yeah, they
Yeah. Oh,
missed
sorry.
him
Thank you.
against the Vikings.
Yep. But you know what? Thank God my boy CMC came back. That's all that matters.
He's playing through injury. That's the scary thing. This is a game I want to circle on. 49ers are a team I want to circle on later on in the episode.
Yeah,
I
we
see
will,
some
we
glaring
will.
flaws.
We will. And Chicago Bears,
Same.
Chargers. A big one to me is Roshan Johnson, saying that he still in concussion protocol, and they're optimistic but unsure if he's going to play Week 8. So I think that's pretty
So,
big.
Justin Fields too. He's going to be out.
He's not going to be out. Tyler Bagent, or however you say his last name.
Really?
I'm excited to watch him.
Okay.
He's
I'm
been
watching.
playing good.
I'm excited to watch him play again. Chargers, no one of note.
His last football game, he lost to the ore miners is what the university's team is called. Oh man, University of Colorado of Mining, I believe it was the last team he played and lost. So, what a good performance, He looked good.
Lions, Raiders.
Yes, yeah.
David Montgomery is questionable,
He's not going to come back till after the bye. They're just going to
Probably
rest
not.
up.
but Jimmy Garoppolo for the Raiders is questionable as well. Hopefully Jimmy G doesn't play because I'd like to keep seeing Aiden O'Connell since he's on my taxi squad.
Yeah, the big one, Marvin Jones stepping away. Yeah, stepping away from football. Really hope everything's going good with him in his life and whatever's going on. Hope it's all ends up okay for him.
Yep. I don't know. When you read that post, I don't know if it's necessarily farewell. It just seems like goodbye for now.
Right.
Hopefully he does come back. Hopefully everything is okay with his family. Most importantly, hopefully everything's okay with his family. Thoughts and prayers go out to him.
He's a great
Interesting
veteran
situation.
It's a great leadership role that's going to be left vacant in that locker room.
Big time.
Yep.
Yep. All
Listen
right.
to this recap.
All right. So starting off Thursday night, the Jacksonville Jaguars visit
Why?
New
Why?
Orleans,
Why?
the Big Easy,
Why?
and take care of business, 31 to
That's
24.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
What we thinking
I'm
about
not,
this
I'm
game?
not surprised by the outcome.
I'm not either, but I hated Alvin Kamara's stat line. Jesus Christ.
It
I
was
have
rough.
a massive hatred for that.
He's
right now.
he's just getting a lot of touches.
Well, he had
They're
12
just gonna use
receptions,
him.
you know.
Yeah, 29 total touches. Bro, that's freaking ridiculous. If he would have
I-
got both 100-yard
Talk about
bonuses,
running the wheels off, man.
if he would have got both 100-yard bonuses, I would have been so pissed.
Yeah.
I would have been
He's
absolutely livid.
If he's gonna get this kind of volume, then he's gonna definitely be a league winner this year, for sure.
Yeah, and you traded him,
And
but I also traded him too. So
I'll
that's
go
fine.
get him back. I'll go get him back.
Do it. No, you
I will have.
do it.
He
You
will be
won't.
mine within the next 4 days.
Do it. You won't. Do it right now within the next hour.
No, I can't guarantee that. I don't even know if he's awake. But
But you can try. Go for it. Come on. What you waiting for? But Derek Carr had a pretty good game though. 3 for 55, 301, touchdown, interception, not too bad. Decent fantasy wise, nothing terrible. But the trash,
yeah, the Saints aren't looking that great.
they're not. But like when
The
you throw
Saints-
to when you throw
Saints are
to
competitive though.
when you throw to Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara 19 times or 29 times, sorry, Jesus. But there's only 19 catches. There's a slight issue there, but mainly with Chris Olave's targets, because a lot of them, to me, they didn't really seem catchable. He did have a drop too as well, but I think we need to see a little bit better play from Derek Carr to be for the Saints to actually be considered, right? Because right now it's just looking like the Bucks in that division. As much as I
Or the
fucking,
Falcons.
as much as I
Yeah,
hate the
Falcons
Bucks,
too.
The Falcons are staying high too, you know.
you know what?
the
Fuck,
thing is, you
fuck
know-
the Falcons and Desmond Ritter.
I like the
I
big
just
part
like
on
the
the
defensive
opposite
line.
side.
Just for this past week, I love the Falcons. I love their potential. I love Desmond Ritter. But just this past week, pissed me off.
On the other side of the Saints game, though, I think the big story here throughout for this first 7 games of the season is that Calvin Ridley's kind of been slowly phased out of the offense. And what's up with that? Is that
I mean, Christian Kirk's earning that big money contract. He's earning it right now.
And something else is, you know, here's the thing. Like when you're looking at targets, it's not like Calvin Ridley's being phased out. It's just he's not getting those balls that are catchable, and he's not taking advantage of opportunities that are capable to him. You know, 2 of the potential targets this week were catchable out of his 4. He made 1 reception for 5 yards. You know, it's one of those things where Christian Kirk got 6 targets. He had 6 catches.
Mhm.
You know, that jumps off the stat sheet. You're like, wow.
Stats
you
don't tell it all.
I don't think Calvin Ridley's phased out. I just don't think he got the matchup that they were desiring very often.
Yeah.
You know,
Stats don't tell it all, and I think a lot of times people pay too much attention to the stats and what they say. They only tell part of the story. But my question to you, Shane, real quick, while we're talking about Calvin Ridley, is do you think this is more like for his stats the past couple of weeks, especially? Do you think it's more like because of the game plan they have put in, or do you think it's more like a little bit of rust kind of thing coming back?
I don't think it's rust.
Okay.
And I don't think it's game plan. I think it's just one of those things where I think he's a wide receiver too, on the Jaguars, like when we're talking GM view, not fantasy view. It's one of those situations where Calvin Ridley's job isn't necessarily to be putting up 10 receptions a game and 100 yards. That's Christian Kirk's job.
Right.
What Calvin Ridley's job is to make it so they can't keep on double teaming Christian Kirk. Because you gotta put 1 or 2 on one side, and do you want to deal with Calvin Ridley or do you want to deal with Christian Kirk?
You have to respect
Trevor
Calvin
Lawrence-
Ridley. You have to you can't.
You do have to. You have to
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't, you're gonna get burnt. And he's proven to burn several teams every season because of that.
Yep.
You know, that was his bread and butter in Atlanta was, you know, being able to just take advantage of those one-on-one situations and burn teams on yak yardage, you know.
Yep. Travis Etienne did
So,
it.
the thing is,
My bad. Sorry. What were you saying?
the thing is, I think Calvin Ridley, if I was a Calvin Ridley owner, I'd hold on to him. He's not worth enough value to trade off, and the potential for him to go off in future weeks is there. Like, he's just that type of player, you know. I wouldn't feel
Yep, I
comfortable
agree
trading
with
him or
that.
cutting him. It's just it's
You're
going to
not-
be coming
You're
up.
not going to get enough value.
You're not going to get enough value back.
Yep. And then on the running side of the ball, Travis Etienne really he didn't do too hot. 14 carries, 53 yards, but he salvaged his day with 2 touchdowns running the ball. So that really saves him. Trevor Lawrence, though, was the leading rusher with 59 yards on 8 carries. Not really too surprising, but
Lamar Jackson, who? Lamar Jackson, who? Let's go, T Law.
Oh my god.
Mm.
No. No.
All right.
What's the next game? Raiders, Bears.
Yep.
How
The
we feeling,
puke
boys?
bowl. Backup QBs and all.
That's true.
And we
But
found
the
out
Bears
today
got the
that the
better of it.
Raiders aren't better than the Ore Miners, which that's interesting.
I would say, yeah, your Aiden O'Connell doesn't look like he even played majority of the game. It was Brian Hoyer who got the start for the Raiders.
Yep.
17 of 32, 120 yards and 2 interceptions. But with that kind of performance, Aiden O'Connell might get a start.
And O'Connell, though, 10 for 13.
Yep.
One-to-one touchdown interception ratio. You know, when you talk about 7.5 yards per completion, that's pretty solid actually. So you know, in O'Connell I trust.
Yeah, it wasn't
Say it.
bad.
Josh Jacobs has been a letdown since he's got his paycheck. Just gonna say it.
11 for 35 this game, yeah.
He's been,
I don't think
mean,
it helps with the organization that is around him. You know, you lose Derek Carr, which like people act like that wasn't
That's
a
your
big deal for the
quarterback.
Raiders,
It is.
but that was your face for your franchise for 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
You know, like you talk about something that like mom and dad just got divorced in Las Vegas, man. And like people are acting like it's not a big deal, and Josh Jacobs is having a down year and they're surprised. Like obviously he's going to start off slow. Wait till the winter. This happened last year. Wait till the winter. He starts cooking with gas and he's going to start turning it on. You know, that first round pick that you spent to get him, it'll pay off, especially in a playoff push.
Let's say the running back market in fantasy right now is very top heavy. Anyways, if there's a big, it's like the tight end right now. After the top 5, there's a pretty big drop off. The running backs have been weird this year with all the injuries and team comps. They're the way teams are playing right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
DJ Moore
Never
came
know.
back down to earth the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After going off for
yes.
131,
I sold high.
230, and then 51 and 54.
I sold him high.
As you should have after that big ass game. God damn. Because I mean, he's still getting the targets, right? You
They
can't.
got me Saquon Barkley
I mean, I don't know if that's any better, but
for what I needed. Yeah, it was. I needed running back bad.
that's fair. DJ Moore is good for the opportunity because he is getting targets week in, week out. He is consistent with that, but the yardage leaves a lot to be desired at the moment.
See, you're going back to your injury thing. You're concerned about Rashawn Johnson missing time, but Deontay Foreman played pretty darn well. And like Shane was saying in past episodes, like Chicago's offensive line's healthy. Then their offenses look noticeably better since that happened. And
Tevin Jenkins is a superstar
He's a
That-
dog.
because of his position. I like bringing up the story. You know, Travis was over at my house during the draft that year when Tevin Jenkins got drafted, and I was sitting there. I was like, I hope the Steelers take Tevin Jenkins. I hope the Steelers take Tevin Jenkins, stud out of OSU. And when that's your guard, you know, he is an impact player. And as soon as he came back, the Bears win 2 games in a row, and their running attack looks alive because they're running it down that side of the ball or that side of the field. You know, like we're talking about the Bears are getting to routine style Bears offense. And
Mhm.
as a Chicago fan, they kind of looking like a threat in the NFC North, especially, after something we'll talk about a little bit more later.
We're gonna pretend that never even happened.
As you can pretend.
Hey,
I don't
Travis, I'm
pretend
just
it.
as pissed as you, man. I'm just as
But
Hey,
like,
at least your team got the job done.
that's true. I don't know. Like,
I was hoping your team would get the job done,
Put a gap
but they
between-
didn't.
Or
no.
allow for the tie.
Nothing.
Go ahead,
happened.
give us a wrap up on that Bears game.
Ooh. All right, Travis, wrap up.
That game kind of went the way I thought it was gonna. Even with Baggett being in, he looked okay. He looked pretty good for his first start, especially with how anemic this offense has been for the most part of the last couple seasons. But I think the Raiders are going to be in for it's going to be a long day against Detroit this coming week.
Not the way the Detroit
I
played.
agree.
I think they're going to come in. No,
I think they're
Detroit's gonna be
pissed. I think they're pissed.
I still
wouldn't want to
I
play
still think
Detroit
Detroit's a
this
good.
week.
I think Detroit's a good team, and they needed that punch in the mouth. They really did. The hype was getting crazy, and they needed the gut check.
Cool down, calm down. Hey, Jerry, calm
All right.
down, calm down.
And I'm glad it was actually to a good team this time instead of a bad team.
Browns,
All right. Browns,
Visit.
Colts.
Daytona.
They visited the Colts. Okay.
How is Cleveland like? Okay, did San Fran just come down to earth the last 2 weeks? Because how does Cleveland come in and beat San Fran, and then like I don't like to blame the refs all the time, but like outside of the refs really screwing the Colts right there.
That it was
they
a
should have lost that game.
bad.
They,
It was a badly
they should have
officiated game.
lost to the Colts. It was.
It
They
was-
should have both sides.
It was bad the whole game, but like it got really bad on, like, I think it was the Browns' final drive to get some points on the board, and there was some very not calls that should have not been called for like illegal touching and holding and pass interference. So it's like those on that last drive where they got some points. I hated those calls.
FanDuel will go crazy.
They should not have
Refs
been called.
FanDuel will go crazy.
Call me crazy, but the refs should be penalized hardcore. Like they should
Yeah.
have some kind of fine or suspension or something.
Some
Right.
kind of
If
accountability
players
system.
can be fined for criticizing the refs to reporters or in general, then refs need to be held accountable for when they
Yeah,
make
because
horrible
like
calls. I'm not saying like every single play and down and call that they make needs to be micromanaged and looked at, but
But a
like-
game like
but,
this,
I mean-
this was an altering game for both teams because
Yes.
with Cleveland, like let's look at the current situation. This is a big game for both teams. Cleveland needs to win this game to stay alive in the AFC North
the-
race. That is hyper competitive for God knows why. I was talking about it before the season started. It's going to be a competitive division, but I didn't think this competitive. The Browns needed to win this game to stay alive in this current hunt situation, and the Colts, this win would have put them at 4-3. Like they're coming out to play, and AR is coming back soon. Like each win
out for the
is
year.
big. Oh, yeah. I don't know why I said coming back soon, but
you're good. I still think they'll be
assuming
good,
a
though.
playoff push, he could come back.
right.
So the
Assuming a
Colts have
playoff
been
push, he could
overachieving.
come back.
Exactly.
That's the talk that I was referencing.
It's like
You want to get if you're late in the season, they're talking about fast tracking AR from multiple reports. He could be back at week 17. And if you're in a situation where you could be at a push, then this win matters because the Colts aren't going to win their division. This is a
Especially with
wild
how
card
deep
team.
especially how deep the AFC is. Like
Mhm.
it could be very well. You could have a winning record and just like I'm not talking
Not
9-8 like the Lions last year. I'm talking about like 10 or 11 wins and realistically miss the playoffs in the AFC this year.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be fun.
So 100% refs need to be held way more accountable than they currently are because this shit is obnoxious. It's week in, week out. And, as a Steelers fan, like that questionable catch, we'll get into it a little bit further, but like while we're on the subject of refs, like that questionable catch by Allen Robinson that got the Steelers that game-winning first down. Like the Rams were fucked. Like the Rams shouldn't have been in a position where they just were fucked. You know, like the Steelers just had to let the clock wind down to the 2-minute warning, and that counts as a play. And now the play's over. They can't review it. Tough shit. It's over.
Right.
Wild. Like that can't happen. You know, bad officiating all around the NFL this week. But you know, you want to talk about some decent play calling, some decent officiating. How about we go visit Foxborough? Ozzy, what did your Patriots do this week?
They finally won. They finally won. I was doing homework at the same time, dude. But I was trying to do homework and watch the game. It was
It's
just
tough.
It was hard, especially in the fourth quarter. But mainly like in the final 6 minutes when that game got really fucking interesting. They beat the Bills, which is surprising. It's actually not surprising. I'm surprised they won overall, but typically they play the Bills pretty well, right?
They do.
They usually
They do.
out of nowhere, even though they're like a worse team, honestly, they just play the Bills really well. And the Bills slumped to 4-3. I thought they'd be bad, but I didn't think they'd be like just above 400 type bad.
500.
Yeah, just above 500. That's what I said.
Yeah, you know, like coming into the season, you know, I was talking about the Patriots being a 9-10 win team. Like, I'm completely and utterly surprised that they're 2-5. But you look at their box scores and it's like, we know what the issue is. Like, we know what's going on. We know what the problem is. You know, imagine if the Patriots made that trade to go get Kirk Cousins.
They'd be a much better team. But also at the same time, they
I was
lost.
gonna say
They lost some key defensive players too. 2 of them for the year, so that's going to have a huge impact.
Christian
But
Gonzalez being one.
I think above, really just like their quarterback and skill position players, it's still just the play calling.
I was saying if Kirk Cousins played every single game in a New England uniform this year, they definitely would have won a couple more games than they have so far. But
I
I
don't
will
think so.
say Mac Jones. Oh, not a lot. Like they probably win 1 or 2 more.
I think they're still
But
2-win team.
I think Mac Jones was a big reason why they won this game. He played pretty well. And
Mac Jones did play well.
Yeah, Bills defense. Ever since Josh Allen became quarterback, the Bills defense on paper and like not even necessarily on paper, like it's performed at like an elite level, but they have a really bad tendency of, especially late in games, playing down to the level of their opponents, and it's really frustrating to watch, especially if you're a Bills fan.
Yeah, I think the reason they won is because of the Patriots defense. Because time and time again, you saw Josh Allen on the run, which made him either throw the ball away or throw an interception, which he did one time in the game. Granted, he was only sacked one time, but a lot of plays he was forced to scramble, which made him not good reads and had to throw the ball away.
Hey,
Patriots kept in their face.
Yeah,
I say it got Belichick his career win number 300, joining George Halas and Don Shula.
Mm-hmm. They're like the Patriots are not afraid to send all-out blitzes. And they kind of proved that against the Bills, where they did it numerous times, especially in the red zone. And it paid off one time, a couple times. We talk about.
So the next game, Commanders Giants. Commanders visit MetLife. Giants pulled off 14-7. It was an ugly, nasty
It was a
defensive bout.
Funny game to watch.
But Tyrod Taylor,
Yeah,
Tyrod Taylor did come out to play.
That boy was balling.
Mm-hmm. He got sacked 4 times.
Well,
Like,
you know, like be here today if it wasn't for that doctor in Los Angeles.
Honestly, bro.
Hey, bro,
dude, that's so crazy. Yeah. But you know, like
he didn't play bad.
I think it does.
He had a pretty good game.
I think it shows a lot of like resilience. You know, when you get sacked 4 times, you know, and you still pass for 279 yards and 2 through the air, and no picks. That's the big thing for me. You get sacked 4 times and no picks. Tip of my cap, because you fucking did it. You stayed cool under the pressure, and in game like this one where you win by a touchdown, that's the difference. That is the difference of the game. He threw no picks. They won by 1 touchdown. If he threw 1 pick, the Sam Howell Cook, did they take it to OT? Did the Commanders give the Giants a run for their money and go up to 4-3? Like, those are all realistic scenarios. Tyrod Taylor single-handedly won the Giants this game. You know, their defense played really well as well, but when you play that well at quarterback, it's beneficial for the full team. Exactly.
The big thing, the glaring hole for the Giants, though, is there's still no one emerging on the wide receiver core as a consistent threat on a week-to-week basis. Darren Waller has started to be consistent the last couple weeks. As long as Tyrod start, Waller's going to be getting fed. From a fantasy standpoint, he's locked and loaded. He's
getting
starting
fed
to
the
return to
ball.
that form. Yeah, and Barkley's been playing well, but they need a receiver to step up. The court, like, it's kind of like a receiving situation, like with the Chiefs, but the quarterback situation on the Giants isn't as pretty as Patrick Mahomes, so it's not going to work out as well. But
yeah,
they need Jalen Hyatt to step up, or they need Darius Slayton to finally step up after years of chances. He has the occasional blow up game, but other than that, he's just not consistent at all.
He's usually pretty quiet. Terry McLaurin, though, for the Washington, is pretty good. 6 for 90. Logan Thomas had himself a little bit of a game, 4 for 51. So nothing crazy, but good enough to be in your starting lineup for sure.
Terry's gonna always be a big what if for me because the talent's there. He just was subjugated to average QB play at best for his entire career. He could have been.
Chat's coming in with a little bit of an interesting take that I like a lot. Taylor has always been a bit underrated. Teams never stuck with him long enough for some reason. If he got a chance to grow in a system/team, I think he could have been a really good quarterback, and I think he still could.
Same.
You know, I think more like a Geno, because I think what the thing is with Minshew is we're seeing him prove it right now. Like, and it depends on how well he plays this season for us to say, yep, like Gardner. I think honestly, like Tyrod, like every time I see Tyrod play, it's like, why it goes back. I think Travis is right. He's one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the world. He should be starting on one team at least. Is he better than Kyler Murray and Joshua Dobbs? Yeah. Yeah, he is. You know, is he better than Zach Wilson? Yeah, he is. Is he better than Baker Mayfield? Probably. You know,
I would say so.
Is he better than how Kenny Pickett's been playing? You know, yeah. You know, like we're talking about, several teams that would be severely beneficial.
What if I was just back there when you looked?
Benefited by him being on the roster. That'd be wild.
My boy had his breath taken away. You see how he looked back and just lost everything.
He fucking looked back there and Griffith just comes out of nowhere and punches you in the face.
Yeah, I see my sleep paralysis demon, bro. You know, I was just spooked for a second. You know, I don't know what's going on.
That's fair. But on the flip side, to go to the other side of Washington, Sam Howell didn't have too bad of a game. Actually, it did. I mean, one of his worst games, 22-42, 1 interception, 250 yards. Plays a little better. You know, they potentially win the game or go into overtime at least. But I think that's Giants secondary is sneaky good too, though, and definitely caused some problems for the team, for the Commanders. All right, now on to the.
I was just gonna say their Washington's rush attack is too inconsistent too. That needs to change for them to actually take a step.
Yep. Now on to the Falcons versus Buccaneers.
All you Bijan owners, how are you feeling about this one?
You can only play 11 snaps. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL actually requested a report from Atlanta why he missed, like, didn't play the amount of snaps, get the amount of touches he normally does, because he was never mentioned on the injury report at all for anything.
True.
And the NFL only does that in that kind of situation, pretty much.
Yeah, and go to Baker Mayfield. He had a decent but not great game. 275, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I would just like to point out though, he's not on track for 30 touchdowns.
No, he's not. You're right.
I would just like to say that.
Ass.
He's projected. He's on track for 23 touchdowns
Ass.
right now and 11 interceptions.
He's been decent this year, but like there's been opportunities missed, and that's why he's not a good quarterback. And like the game against my Lions, there was a couple situations where the pressure, like he felt the pressure and he panicked before he had to. He had another full second or so in the pocket to cleanly throw the ball. And there's a couple wide open Mike Evans situations that would have probably been touchdowns that he overthrew or missed through because he freaked out from the pressure in the pocket. If he has a clean pocket, like pretty much any quarterback in the league can play well because they have no pressure. But he needs to start doing better with that. If he can clean that up, get a little bit better on his touch passes when there's pressure in his face, he needs to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a three-way race basically for first and NFC North or NFC South between the Falcons.
If the NFC South wasn't a clusterfuck, they might have already made a change. Throw the rookie in.
Yeah.
Throw Kyle Trask in.
Yeah.
I mean, not a rookie anymore, but
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a three-way race right now as it stands for first place, essentially. Tyler Algier had a pretty good game, 21 for 59. So he got a lot of work, but not a lot of yards.
Drake London's been,
that Bucs defense is good, man.
It is.
It is.
Like we could talk all the shit about Baker Mayfield we want. The reason that the Bucs have 3 wins and they're staying at 500 is because that defense is that good. Baker Mayfield wouldn't be half the QB that he's even looking like right now if that defense wasn't as good as they are.
Yep.
The biggest stat for quarterbacks are wins. When you're winning games, you tend to look like at least a decent quarterback.
It inflates your value for sure.
His season totals are respectable if you just look at the numbers. He's 65.2 completion percentage, 1,363 yards, 6.7 average yard per pass, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, like 89.2 rating. It's not bad, but it's the number, like you said, the numbers lie. The numbers don't tell the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
If you've watched him play, you know that the stat line could be so much better, and as a result, the record as well.
Yep.
And because as much as I hate to say it,
they should only have 1 loss.
They honestly should have beat the Lions. There's those plays that he missed would have been game changing plays because of how close the game was the entire time. And he's got to step up, especially with a weak division to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. All right, Travis, why don't you take us away with the next game? Lions, Ravens. A good old-fashioned ass whooping.
That was actually the local high school team scrimmaging against him.
Okay. That was Michigan State versus the Ravens. Got you. Because they're basically the high school team.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, we needed this gut check. The Ravens are a very good football team. The biggest thing that we could have done different, like Dan Campbell took full responsibility for it. He's like, I just, plain and simple, I just didn't have them ready to play. We got our ass whooped. On to the next one. And I like that in him. The big thing that Goff didn't look comfortable in the pocket, and we really, not having Monty hurt. It hurt a lot. We weren't able to establish any sort of run game up the middle. We didn't have a chance. We never had a chance the entire game to establish dominance in the trenches, and they ran with it.
That's where the Lions are able to.
This
excel.
was the tough. This was the toughest defense that they've played in a long time.
it was great. I think a big thing too, that I really hated to see from the Lions was the soft coverage on the Baltimore receivers. They're just giving them way too much space. Aaron Glenn's got to change up the scheme and adjust, or you're going to lose to the good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
Plain and
you
simple.
can't be playing soft zone when you got Lamar Jackson at QB. You just can't. And the thing is, like Lamar Jackson was looking like fucking Peyton Manning against that Lions defense, man. Just completely violating and dismantling them.
He's balling out.
Yes. Lions
But,
need to make a trade. They need to be a buy now candidate. Like the Eagles are serious about it. They went and got Kevin Byard from Tennessee. That's for what they traded for him, that's a hell of a steal to shore up that secondary.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest complaint for the Eagles is their secondary wasn't quite as good as it was last season. It was a step slower.
And now it's better.
Same. Bradbury's still good, but now they addressed it. And the Lions, they can't wait for James Houston to be healthy finally. They need to go get another threat, a pass rushing threat opposite of Hutch.
Maybe Bud Dupree. I think you can get Bud Dupree at a good price, and I still think he's got some juice in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a Jadeveon Clowney, have him fly back with the Lions.
I really like the big names. I would really love Max Crosby or Brian Burns. That'd be beautiful.
That's not realistic, though.
But it depends. Yeah, it's just the price and the way that we've built this team and the direction we're going. We're not going to cough up the draft capital for it.
And also, like, just the salary. Like, the salary wouldn't be justified. That's why I'm referring to those players like those Bud Duprees, like those Jadeveon Clowneys who have decent-sized contracts, but it's not like you're bleeding out the nose for these guys,
right.
And because what you need, you don't need another Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. You just need a guy that is going to make it so they can't double Aiden Hutchinson on every down.
Yep. And to be a critic is what Hutchinson's great, and he's turning into one of the elite edge rushers in the league. Maybe even already a top 10 edge rusher in the league. A lot of people already put him like top five. I think he has definitely elite. I think he's already top 10 and he's elite, but there's some things he needs to do. He needs to get another go-to move besides just straight, I'm just going to try to run right through you. He needs to do.
You've been seeing him utilize swim techniques and stuff. The issue is like
he's getting
feels
held
bad
a lot,
for
and the refs are. I think refs are hoeing him a lot, honestly.
Yeah, the thing is, when I'm watching Aiden Hutchinson, it's like, the big issue is like the issue isn't the island. That's the big question when you're talking about an edge rusher. Can they get past the island? Yes, he can get past the island. He has that elite talent. He has that elite power. He can do that. He can get past the island. One-on-one with the tackle on the outside is what I'm referring to as the island. Can he get past the island? He can. But the thing is, when you go on an interior rush, so now you got to deal with the guard. That's when he's getting three hands on him. Like you can't. When you got three hands on you, then it's hard to get through. TJ Watt made an electric play that was all over SportsCenter last season because he broke through three hands against the Seahawks in the winding seconds. The reason that play was so spectacular was because it was just a rarity of a play. Aiden Hutchinson is that type of talent. There's no doubt in my mind that Aiden Hutchinson will be a top 3 edge rusher by the end of the season, and he's going to be a top 5 pass rusher for the rest of his career. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. That's just where Aiden Hutchinson is. And what the Lions need to do, like Brian Burns, sure, that'd be amazing. Getting a guy like that, that'd be so awesome. But, realistically getting a guy that's like a Bud Dupree, someone that is sustainable that's able to contain that other side, who's able to make it so the quarterback can't go ahead and leak out back, make it. Aiden Hutchinson will get 2 or 3 more sacks with a good trade to go ahead and lock up that other side. And that's the situation for me with Aiden.
Yep. If our offense was fully healthy, I would say spend the house and go get, do what the Rams did. Give yourself a 2-year window, dump a lot of your draft capital in the future and go get an elite edge rusher and Patrick Surtain. Just say, fuck it. Send 5 first-round picks out if you need to.
Fuck it, we both.
I mean, if we did that, theoretically, our defense would be really, really good.
Your defense is really, really good.
It already
I mean,
is.
it is. But with adding another elite edge rusher and then corner the caliber of Pat Surtain.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'd have that'd be a Super Bowl caliber defense, championship level
I feel that.
on paper. But
Anyone stand out for me this game, fantasy wise?
fantasy wise, Gibbs owners, you love what you saw. I mean, a lot of those were garbage time stats, but still, he was utilized both in the run and pass game very effectively. Got a high target share, and this game shows that if Monty's going to be out, there's not going to be a run by committee. He's just going to get the touches.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Reynolds did get some touches, but otherwise was an afterthought in the game. Ravens fans, hats off. Jackson played a hell of a game. Gus Edwards looked really good. Mark Andrews fans, you love it. He's playing well. But yeah, on to the next one.
Alrighty.
Can you
On
turn
to
those
the
lights
next
yellow for me real quick? Yeah,
one.
yeah.
No, blue. Do blue.
Shane
No,
about to
no,
get his
she already
breath
got him
taken
blue.
away.
You don't get blue, bro. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
you want
yeah.
yellow because,
Here we go.
because this is your game. Here we go.
Shane about
Let's
to
go,
get his
baby.
breath taken away again, real quick. Shane, don't look.
Here we go,
over your
baby.
shoulder.
Here we go. Wait, was that the refs letting the Steelers win a game? Holy fuck! This might be the first time in my life. This might be the first time in my life that the Zebras actually helped the Steelers.
Keep the
fucking
offensive
win, dude.
coordinator. He's not the problem.
No.
Be right back.
No, a big thing, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Something that is consistent that like is happening on the Steelers offense is the Steelers scored touchdowns when Kenny Pickett's calling the plays, and that's concerning that your sophomore quarterback is calling plays better than your genius offensive coordinator. He's supposed to be revolutionary for the staff, and he's ass, and it's proven time and time again. Why the hell isn't Broderick Jones starting? Why the hell isn't JPJ starting? He should be this week moving forward. And the thing is with that is like, you look at the Steelers team and like, no offense to the Rams, it's just with how the Steelers played, they should have beat them significantly worse than 24-17. Like they should have beat them 31. We're talking 2 scores. The Rams played good defense. They played good ball. But this goes back to the offensive coordinator, like the amount of times that I think we ran 3 jet sweeps on first down. It's unacceptable, man. Like we're not talking about, a theory that just isn't working anymore. We're talking about ramming our fucking heads into the wall until we're bludgeoned and bleeding everywhere. With that being said, when we're talking about fantasy, like projections and everything moving forward, am I comfortable with Kenny Pickett as a potential QB1? No. Am I comfortable with Najee Harris being a potential RB1? No. Am I comfortable with Jaylen Warren being a potential RB1? No. Am I comfortable with George Pickens being a potential wide receiver 1? Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the only highlight on the Steelers offensive side of the ball. TJ Watt might as well be the cornerback 1 for that roster. It's fucking devastating at this point with how Levi Wallace has been playing. You go on the other side of the ball, the Rams, TJ Watt had a clutch interception that pretty much saved the Steelers this game. And it seems like every week we're like TJ Watt clutched up and won the Steelers this game. But, it's just like, what the fuck, man? I've never seen one player carry a team so fucking hard. Like ever. If the Steelers did not have TJ Watt, they would be 0-6 right now. It's devastating.
100%.
Going on the other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford did have a good game. If you watch the game live, the first half, Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua were just shredding. Puka was shredding Levi Wallace, and then Joey Porter Jr. comes in the second half, only lets up 1 reception for like 7 yards or something. That's the difference we're talking about, and that's why I wanted to circle that. Puka was taking care of business. Puka did his job. Just when JPJ came out, he clamped him down, and that was the right call. I think if Puka kept eating like that, the Rams would have won that game. Puka, I think you just have to start at this point, no matter what. Like Tutu, I think is just a flex lock every week in, week out. He needs to be a flex lock. Royce Freeman, I went ahead and picked up off free agency. He scored 6 points against a Steelers team that is historic for letting no-name running backs trample them.
Mhm.
So maybe that's a good sign for him, because maybe he'll have a name in the NFL then. Because the amount of times that the Steelers got trampled by running backs with a random last name that only played 2 games throughout their career is astounding. If you look at the stats, I think it's like 25 times or something. Like it's just obscene that they went up 200-yard games to these
I would
guys.
say Darrell Henderson got a lot of work too for the Steelers or for the Rams that game.
Yep.
He's just
Mhm.
familiar
Yep.
with the offense. So
Oh yeah,
But
18 carries, 61 yards, a TD, and catch of the year for 5. Like you're talking about like a 15-point performance. That's really solid.
So
I
then-
think you pick your poison though. Boom or bust with Royce Freeman or Darrell Henderson.
Okay.
Darrell Henderson. You pick one or the other. I don't think you get to, and one's boom and the other one's bust. That's the situation over there in Los Angeles.
So what do you do then? Are you just playing, kind of like doing a dart throw and just starting whoever, or you kind of like how do you decide? I guess essentially, are you just going based off pure matchup, or just what you believe, what you think?
What'd you say, Austin? I'm sorry.
I was just kind of like circling back to what you said. You said one's boom or bust, but like, are you just going off a pure matchup, or are you bringing something else into the equation?
bring in
No.
the booze.
Only Sean McVay in that Rams offense knows every week.
Okay,
That's
so it's just
gonna
kind of
be
like a
which
dart
poison
throw.
they choose.
Just kind of like a dart throw. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Because they're
works.
both similar running backs, right? That's the
Mhm.
thing. They both excel at similar things. They both benefit with similar things. When you're talking about like, I think Royce Freeman is a little bit faster, and I think Henderson has a little bit better hands. I think that's kind of the situation. So it's like one of those situations where like it wasn't supposed to be these 2 guys starting on your team. It just wasn't. It was supposed to be a different situation completely. And because of injuries, now you're down to 2 guys that kind of give the same punch, and they want to do this 1-2 punch thing, run by committee. They ran the ball 30 fucking times for between running backs, 31 times, 135 yards, between running backs, 127 yards. We're talking about a really good performance overall. The Rams offensive line looked good. The Rams should have had a better chance at that game. Especially with how poorly the Steelers offense was just like playing consistently throughout that game. As a Steelers fan, I take it. Nothing's more important than winning, but I think they're the most fraudulent 4-2 team in the NFL currently.
Yeah, and because of everything you said, like this is kind of a running back room I want to stay away from, and I'm not touching unless I absolutely have to start a running back. Then I'll just kind of just start whoever I have. If I have both of them, it's just freaking coin flip at that point.
Yep.
But I kind of want to ask you about Najee Harris and your thoughts on him so far, like especially like fantasy wise, but also regular season wise, on what you think he needs to improve at and what he's doing good at, kind of thing.
I know I'm gonna sound crazy, and Najee we trust, man. As the season goes on, he's just one of those backs. As the season goes on, he's a powerful back. These runs where he's getting 3 yards per carry, though, as it gets colder, those will become 5-6 yards per carry every touch.
Okay.
That think about it like this. Every year, what time of the year does breakout candidate running backs just break out? It's usually late October, mid-November. Yeah, towards the second half. And the big thing with that is, it's hard to tackle a big guy like Najee. That's why, later on in the season, like Derrick Henry, I'm still starting him in fantasy because later on in the season, this dude is going to be impossible to tackle. Like, for people that haven't played football or for people that haven't done activities out in the freezing cold, when you're cold like that, you feel frail. You don't want to hit someone that's 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds running at Mach speed at you. You don't want to do that.
You don't want to hit anybody at that.
Yeah.
Let alone someone that's 240 pounds.
So here's the thing, Najee, I'm not concerned. I don't think it's a Najee issue either.
So is he?
I don't think they put the best offensive line out there that they can every week.
Yeah, and like Broderick Jones is just better than Dan Moore. He just is at this point. Like it's not a discussion to be had. It's just a fact at this point. Based off tape that we have and based off of reps that we've seen, Broderick Jones is just significantly better. He has an all-pro level kick that, dude, he was putting Jadeveon Clowney on his first start on a fucking island.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I hate to be that guy. Jadeveon Clowney ain't the most elite player of all time, but for fuck's sake, on your first start and you shut the guy down and he didn't just shut him down. He posterized him, man. Just completely demolished him. And when you're talking about that type of performance, why the fuck is he not starting? Dan Moore has been getting lit up all season. Luckily, he had a decent game this week. But, back to your question with Najee, like, it goes back to, it also sucks with how the play calling is happening. It's not like they're just giving Najee the ball on first down. They're going for this cheeky jet sweep, wide receiver screen type shit. So now it's 2nd and 10. And now you hand the ball off to Najee and they're packing the box because they see you in I form and you only get 3 yards of carry, and now you're on 3rd and 7. So now they know you're passing. And so now they know Najee ain't getting the ball, like for reference, the Steelers had 29 rush attempts, 8 of them being Kenny Pickett, mostly on scrambles.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, 21 rush attempts. That's not enough to be like this smash mouth team that they want to be. Kenny Pickett only had 25 pass attempts. So, like realistically, we're talking about like 46 actual plays for the Steelers offense. That's horrible.
It's not
Like,
winning football.
We see quarterbacks pass attempt more than that
Mm-hmm.
in a single game, just including the running game. Like this is bad. You
Like
take the win. Let's go ahead and move on.
46 plays isn't going to cut it. But circle back real quick to Najee Harris. Fantasy. Are you starting him? Is he like an every week start for you, or are you going to be a little more cautious with him? Both of you guys.
It's tough because I think once the switch is on, it's on. So personally, it's like one of those things where it's like once he has that boom game, then it's Najee time. We haven't had that boom game yet. And if you don't think he's going to get against Jacksonville, go ahead and sit him. I would. I don't know when it's going to come because this Steelers team is unpredictable. I don't know who the fuck's even calling plays anymore on that team. I don't know if it's the Jander or if it's Matt Canada. Hopefully it's the Jander. It'd make more sense at this point.
I think just because of the stuff, like what you probably have invested in Najee,
You
he's
have to start
flexible.
him.
You have to at least flex him.
Start. That's the start.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
Flex.
I mean, at the latest, you get Najee in the 3rd round, right? He ain't falling out of that.
yeah.
right.
But if you drafted him to be your RB1, I would not be happy about that.
Just like if you drafted Andrew Luck to be quarterback 1, you're not
I don't
happy.
wanna talk about
That's funny.
Hey,
to me.
remember that one time I drafted Le'Veon Bell, first pick
Yeah.
overall in a draft with you, Travis? And Travis and I were neighbors, but we lived like a hallway apart. And I was so excited that I was the 2nd overall pick. And I was so excited Le'Veon Bell was available. I yelled so loud he could hear me. He was like, "Damn, bro, you excited?" And then he didn't play a single snap that year.
Kind of funny.
Vile. What else is kind of funny? How the Seahawks only beat the Cardinals by 10 points.
Yeah.
Listen, Joshua Dobbs has continued to surprise me this whole year. He had one of his worst games this year, being only 19 of 33 for 146 yards. But like, I don't hate the Cardinals team. Like they've been in some close games.
Well,
but
something real quick. Joshua Dobbs had 43 on the ground too. So he almost had a 200-yard performance and he got sacked 4 times. Like, does that make up for it? No, like 200 yards ain't great. But I do want to reiterate, he did have almost a 200-yard performance and like it doesn't help his case. He got sacked 4 times.
and he's not the problem.
He's not. There's
Exactly.
just a lot of holes on that team in general.
Like as a team.
But
What do you say, Travis?
I was gonna say like because they played pretty well. Like it was a testament to just their inefficiencies on offense. I mean, they only had 249 yards of offense, but no turnovers. They they only had a minute left or a minute and 4 seconds less possession time than the Seahawks. 15 first downs to the Seahawks 18s, but like Seahawks defense won this game. Like Seattle's offense gave up 3 turnovers. They lost the turnover battle by a -3 margin and still only gave up 10 points and won by double digits. That's Seattle's defense playing out of their mind.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you finally saw JSN kind of break out a little bit, but that's also because DK Metcalf wasn't on the field, didn't play this game.
I think that's just like you should be excited.
Do you
about
think that was
once Lockett's
coincidental
gone.
or consequential?
Mm.
Yo, Santa.
I
At Twitch
think
chat. At Twitch chat. So if you guys are watching the recording, remember Twitch chat. My mod hopped in. I'm sorry.
I think he got that line because DK was out. But I also kind of figured it was only a matter of time this year that JSN would kind of show up and show out. And hopefully with this performance that he continues to improve. But as long as you got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf on that team, like I don't think it's really going to happen week in, week out.
That, and since the offense runs through Kenneth Walker, it seems like now too.
They just don't.
Yeah,
There just
they
ain't
do like
enough
to run
touches
ball.
in the game to get them to all their guys. You know, here's the thing though. Like,
I
Call me
think it's
crazy.
good for when
No.
Lockett's done.
no, call me crazy, man. I
Crazy.
think the torch just got passed. I think Lockett just passed the torch, and I think Lockett's still going to be a great slot guy. I think he's going to be a flex start. Fuck it. Moving forward, JSN, wide receiver 2. That's his basement. Moving forward,
I think you need
wide
to.
receiver 2. Yeah, like
You need to, like, he's, I think in my opinion, the better receiver, and then also the younger receiver. So like I think you need to start getting JSN more involved because he's too talented on that team. He's too talented of a player and a playmaker to just sit idle.
That offense is too talented in general to not spread the ball around more and get more creative on the offensive side. They have the playmakers and weapons to pretty much do whatever they want with their playbook.
Yep. Exactly. And so it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, they need to start getting him more involved. They need to have some design plays. I'm loving the Kenneth Walker work because he got 26 carries and
You want to trade him to me?
he's on track this year for 1,300 yards. No, Travis, thank you for trading him to me. We worked that trade out over.
I'll make it beautiful.
We worked it out while I was dropping my dogs off, so it worked out well. But no, I'm not trading him back. I worked so hard to get him back on my team after I traded him to you the first time. Right? So
I'll
like,
get him back. You know I will. I'll pester you enough eventually.
like I've told you before, like you're not gonna like the trades that you want for my top tier players. You're not gonna like them. You're not gonna want to pay it. So it's like, end the story.
speaking of trades for top tier players, the Broncos win a game against the
What?
Packers. Yeah, I thought the Broncos were tanking. I thought they were supposed to be going and getting Caleb Williams or something. You know,
I thought Jordan Love was good.
Jordan loves the freaking goat.
do they even have their
No.
first round pick this year? Actually,
Let me look.
Seattle
Who the
does,
Bron-
right?
Yeah, I would assume Seattle probably does.
Let's so check 2024
That
draft order tankathon.
That makes sense.
Nope, Broncos are projected 4th overall pick currently. The Bears actually are projected to have the 1st overall pick because they got the pick from Carolina.
The first and the third.
So,
Chicago. Only Chicago can do that. Trade away the 1st overall pick just to end up with the 1st overall pick again the next year.
wild, bro, wild.
But yeah, these Broncos.
shocked.
Packers are projected
is
to have
actually-
the 7th overall.
I would say Russ hasn't been like putting up the giant, bulky, like 300-yard games, like crazy numbers like you saw him do in Seattle. But like, he's been efficient. Higher completion percentage, not turning the ball over. Touchdown totals are low, but like, he hasn't really been the problem. The defense just being ass and
He's not someone that
Everyone
you
just-
want to start,
and-
but you're
yeah,
okay
I just-
starting.
he spent the last 2 years with everybody at his skilled positions taking turns being on IR. Like Judy's spent 40% of the last 2 seasons hurt. Cortland Sutton spent 70% of the last 3 seasons hurt.
Mhm.
Frickin' Javonte Williams has spent 60% of this season and last season hurt. You know, like he hasn't had a
That sounds
chance to
horrible.
like even get to know these players. You know, so
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
Shit's a clusterfuck, man.
but what Denver
This-
paid for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton is absolutely like on par with with Deshaun Watson's contract.
it was not a good
Those
trade.
are
It's franchise
No.
devastating. It's devastating for a franchise when you're in this position, you know. And kudos to the Browns, you know, via Steelers fan, kudos to the Browns for, you know, showing that they don't need a sexual assaulter to be their starting quarterback to carry them to fame, you know. Like they're winning games without him. And, you know, happy endings for everybody.
Jesus, vile.
No, but Green Bay side of things, their team's in shambles. They're too streaky. They're up and down as a team, but
Mhm.
Jordan Love is not that guy. I mean, he had a decent game, 21 to 31, 180 yards, 2 tutties, and 1 interception, but
He's the GOAT.
but
The GOAT.
he's not that good, in my opinion.
So good.
I mean, I know it's his
So
first
elite.
7 games as a starter or 6 games as a starter, but still,
Aaron Rodgers, who?
right?
I mean, Jordan Love has way more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers does this season. So
you
like,
can't
I'm just
argue
saying.
that. You can't argue that.
I just think I just confidently will, in my opinion, say that the streak of back-to-back Hall of Fame QBs in Green Bay, I think that streak ends. They're not going to have a third straight.
No, Jordan Love.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think it's discussion. No. Yeah, you know, I think the Packers are going to get a perennial quarterback through the draft that will start in his first season at some point here soon.
This coming draft.
With that being said, let's talk about
Okay.
perennial quarterbacks. Shocked with where the Chargers are at currently in the season. I was very high on the Chargers coming in. They fall again in Arrowhead to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey having big days. What are you guys thinking here?
I love the
follow-up
Mahomes
question.
performance.
Follow-up question for both of you. Can the Chargers get this thing back on track?
They can. I think they can do it pretty easy.
Talent-wise, they're way too good, but they're in a similar situation like your Steelers, dude. Staley's just he's got to do something better. You have one of the league's top 5 arm talents in the league, and he's 25 years old. Like, you need to utilize that better.
Yep.
I feel like we're getting shades of Philip
because
Rivers
like
with Justin
I was gonna
Herbert.
say because like just think about it, like as an offensive coordinator, like if you're a coordinator in the NFL, like he has currently one of the top 5 arm talents, and that guy's gonna, like, regardless of how the Chargers perform as a team, Herbert's gonna be the franchise quarterback there for the next 12 years minimum.
I mean,
And-
yeah, they're paying him a shit ton
And
over the next
over
5,
the
so-
course of, like, if Staley becomes a lifetime coordinator, like, very arguably Herbert already has a very solid chance that Herbert will be the best quarterback Staley ever has at his dispensal his entire career, like the rest of his career being a coordinator. Like, he needs to do something.
can we talk about how Shane's eyes just went all wide as
He's the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Doc started barking, Shane's eyes go fucking wide as shit.
I got startled. I got spooked. The dog came over.
But,
to
like-
me. He knew he rattled me. Now he came over for some pets.
But it's wild because, like, the Chargers' next 5 games, they got 2 really tough teams against Detroit and Baltimore. And then got a couple easy opponents in Chicago and Green Bay, and then New York, which I think Chicago's going to put up a little bit of a fight, but it's very possible the Chargers go 0-5 this next stretch, of 5 games.
I
Yeah.
think they got one locked in. Against the
One win?
Packers.
I could see.
I think
that.
they have one locked. I think they have one locked. I think that's their basement. I don't see them losing all 5. You know, I think the Chargers should be able to take care of the Bears. I'm concerned. The Bears are starting to get hot in a weird way, and I don't know how I feel about it. But as long as Tevin Jenkins keeps being a stud, they're gonna keep winning games.
Right.
You know, I don't know if I've ever seen an offensive guard put so much. I hate to circle back, but I want to real quick. I don't know if I've ever seen an offensive guard put so much on his back and get so little credit for it.
Mhm.
You know, like he's playing better than Quinn Nelson at this point right now, in
Yeah.
my opinion. We're talking about elite performance after elite performance. The Chargers should be able to take care of the Bears. Chargers should be able to take care of the Jets. Chargers probably shouldn't be able to take care of the Lions, but they could pull off an upset, but we'll count that as a loss. Should be able to take care of the Pack and Ravens. You know, I don't think they stand a chance. But I do think they could win against the Patriots, Broncos, Raiders, possibly the Bills, possibly the Broncos, possibly the Chiefs. So, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. If I'm being courteous, gets them at 9 wins. Is that enough to even get you in?
Not in this AFC.
I don't.
Especially
know
when
how
there's
they're gonna get
probably
in.
going to be 3 teams from the AFC North that have at least that many wins.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. The Chargers are just wasting talent right now. Like it's been the entirety of like the last 2 years of Phillip Rivers' career in a Chargers uniform, and the entirety of Justin Herbert's career. Like they've had some
Wasted.
teams that are. And this
Wasted.
goes. I think this is like a cultural thing, like for around the locker room, because it goes back like even earlier than that, like the beginning parts of Phillip Rivers' career. Like they won 100% from 2006 to 2009. Like they 100% should have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like,
And-
hear me out real quick. You know, you got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, Joey Bosa, Eric Kendricks, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, and Asante Samuel all on the same team, and they're not a playoff team.
Crazy.
What the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? And it's like you look at like their weaker positions, and it's not bad. Like
Mhm.
they're, you know, we were talking about this with the Texans in the offseason and why I like them so much. You know, and the Cardinals are having a similar issue this year. Those gaping abysses at several positions. When you look at the
Yeah.
Chargers, you don't have that. It's
on
not like
paper,
there's
the
gaping
Chargers have one of the
abysses.
most sound rounded off rosters in the league, and they just
Yeah.
underperform bad every single year.
Okay, so
You
then
have Rashawn Slater as your left tackle. You got a good offensive line. You know,
so
like
then-
Zion Johnson is serviceable.
So then is the Chargers, would you guys say, like one of your surprises for where they're at right now? Like big
Yeah,
I
surprises?
want to say yes, but like
I was expecting them to be at 4-2 minimum. at
Is there
this point.
anyone above them for you? Like as a bigger surprise?
as
On
far as,
either
how
way,
bad-
like negative
like-
or positive?
Negative specifically.
Just negative
Mm.
specifically.
Yeah. Because
You
the
know,
Chargers are
honestly-
2-4. Did you think anyone that is there anyone right now that's
Broncos.
the Bronco? Okay, you expect them to be better.
I was expecting them to be like at least at 4 wins right now because they haven't had their bye.
Mhm.
I was expecting them to have about 4 wins right now. They're 2-5. So, you know, I was expecting them to be around a 4-3 team right now, maybe 3-4. I wasn't expecting this 2-5 because, like we've been saying all episode, this AFC is tough. If you're at 2-5 and you're down in that hole right now, you're praying that the AFC North like just kills each other. That's
Mhm.
that's all you can pray for at this point because the AFC North are the kings of this AFC. Like they just they're going to be fat asses and take 3 playoff spots, and there's nothing any other team can do about it, and it sucks. You know, most of the time, you know, a team's at 2-4 at this point of the season. You say if they get their shit together, they could bring it back, but it might be too late. It might already be too late, and I don't think it's an overreaction. You know, when you're talking
especially
about
since there's like no chance of winning the division because the Chiefs are there.
Mhm.
And
yeah, like you got the Jags at 5-2, you got Browns at 4-2, you got Colts, which are a bubble team, at 3-4, you got Bills at 4-3, you got Steelers at 4-2, you know, you got the Browns at 4-2, you know, you got the Bengals, which are starting to get hot. Like Unlike where you're looking at the Chargers or the Broncos and you're like, ugh, you know, if a team were to do it, it'd be the fucking Bengals at this point. And what happens if this AFC North just takes all the fucking spots in the playoff, man? Like, what happens then?
At this point, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Travis, you put a team above the Chargers and like a big surprise for you?
the only other team that I would put up there, but they've looked better the past 2 weeks, and it's a team we're going to touch on here in a minute, but like Minnesota, I knew that they're going to take a step back, but I didn't expect them to be this bad as a whole through the season.
Mm-hmm.
But they have looked a lot better the last 2 weeks. I'll give them that.
True.
But they're missing Dalvin Cook.
And it shows.
Yeah.
But real quick, actually, since we kind of talked about the negative side of it, what is the positive side? Who's doing better than you thought they would?
The Rams.
Rams, okay.
Rams are a good pick.
Mhm.
You know, honestly, man, I'm not even gonna lie. The Browns are playing out of their fucking mind right now.
Browns-
They have a top 5 defense.
Browns are number one for me.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, especially when Nick Chubb went down against the Steelers, it was just like, you know,
You thought
it's
that
almost
was
like
it.
you could hear a pin. You could hear a pin drop in Cleveland, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
like
their whole season. Like,
yeah, and then they somehow rally around, you know, Jerome Ford, and then Jerome Ford goes down. Then they rally around Kareem Hunt, who they brought back in.
Mm-hmm.
Never should have cut him in the first place, and now you're riding on Kareem to keep your playoff hopes alive. It's kind of poetic. It's the most Browns thing I've ever seen. It kind of brings a tear to my eye.
Oh, you gonna cry? Oh.
well, their
Fuck the Browns.
defense is statistically, like pure stats, like they're on pace for a top 10 statistical
Menace.
defensive season.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous what they're doing right
Dude,
now.
It's crazy with the AFC North. Because like you look at the Ravens and it's just like they're very stout and they're getting a lot of tackles. They're not getting a lot of sacks or turnovers. Just very stout, consistent defense.
There's
with the
three
Browns.
top 8 defenses in the AFC North.
I would say top 5. You know, with the Ravens, like it's this consistent defensive unit that's just like holding teams down. With the Browns, it's like they have some splash plays, but they're pretty consistent across the board. And then with the Steelers, they'll let you get 400 yards on them, but next thing you know, they have 6 sacks and 4 turnovers, and they win the game somehow. You know, it's insane how good these defenses are in the AFC North. I don't know if I've ever seen a division that is this heavy-handed on one side of the ball in a long time. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, you know, the Bengals still got a gambit to run. Like, it's not like the Bengals season is over. And I think it's a realistic conversation to have. What the fuck happens if the AFC North gets all 4 spots?
True. I mean, they're the only division
winner and all wild cards.
They're the only division with teams above 500. So,
I was gonna say, like, it's very possible because like their biggest rival, like it's very real that, you know, Houston's success doesn't maintain long term. Indy's falls off, Patriots fall off, like the Chargers just keep declining. Like those are all very real situations. So like the only like
And
threat to taking a wild card spot from those teams are the Bills, and who knows?
yeah, you know, I
and I was
like-
about to say, you know,
very
there's
about
a
to say.
chance that the Bills just start falling off. They've been slipping these last couple weeks.
Mhm.
And, you know, the thing is with Josh Allen, you know, you want to talk about a quarterback playing down to levels. Like, you cannot play worse than
doesn't.
Mac Jones and be on the cover of Madden. You cannot.
Right.
You just can't. You know, like, Mac Jones is a mediocre quarterback. You know, there's no other way around it. When you're playing worse than a mediocre quarterback, there's issues. And there's no one to blame except for Josh Allen. You know, like, it's abysmal. You know, some weeks, you know, Josh Allen's an elite quarterback because he put Patrick Mahomes to the test. He was keeping up with Mahomes. Okay, but why the fuck can't he keep up with fucking Mac Jones?
Right.
You know, we're talking about, I think, and I have a question for you guys. Who's the biggest fraud in the NFL?
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's a good question.
I think it's the Steelers. I think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. It hurts my soul. You know, you guys know I'm diehard,
think they've-
but
The way they've played as a whole in the record, yeah, they probably shouldn't be 4-2. But do I think that like they have the capabilities to turn it around and like earn that record? For sure. So like
they can. They
so,
can. You're right.
but right now, I'm gonna say something wild.
What's that?
I'm gonna say the Dolphins.
That was such a hot take. I had to blow on it, dude. What
Shane,
the fuck?
Shane loved that one.
Oh
I
man.
mean, they're good. They're 5-2. They're 5-2. They got an explosive offense, and their defense.
They got
is
a good
getting healthier.
defense.
They got a good defense.
Yeah. What's fraudulent? What's fraudulent about this team? Why shouldn't they be 5-2?
They've gotten heavily outplayed by the only two quality opponents they've played.
So you're thinking that they're not necessarily fraudulent in the fact that like they don't deserve those wins that they got, but you're thinking that they're playoff frauds.
Yes, they're gonna.
Okay.
I mean, they're a good
Okay.
team. They're still a top 12 to 8 overall team in the league. But when it comes down to when you get to the playoffs and they're going to have to show up every single week because everyone here on out is good, I don't think they have what it takes to run the table.
I don't think they get past the divisional. I think you're right.
And
Not this year. Let me say that. I think, but here's the thing too. Like, I don't know, man. Like Tua, every time I watch Tua, I'm like impressed, even when he has a bad game. Like, Tua's a really good fucking quarterback.
Team. They could
Yeah.
prove me wrong and shut me up, and I wouldn't be surprised because of like what they have on paper. But the way I see it right now, the AFC is either one of the AFC North teams are going to get it done, or it's the Chiefs again. That's the way I see it right now.
I think it's more than
or Jacksonville.
I'll say. Okay, I could kind of agree with Jacksonville, but I think it's more for me. It's the Dallas Cowboys or the Dallas Cowgirls, if you want to say that
I love that.
too.
I love that.
I'll be right back.
I think it's more so that I think. I mean, they got their ass whooped a couple weeks ago, but then they won.
They lost to the Cards.
Yeah, and then they won, and everyone's going crazy again. Like, I think they get lucky a lot of the times. I don't think they're a bad football team by any means. Like they got a lot of really good players. I don't want to take anything away from them in that aspect, but like I think they get a lot of lucky wins. I think they should be like a 500 or just above 500 team.
Yep.
Personally.
Yep.
But
I don't know, man. I think Dak gets a little bit more hate than he deserves.
I think he does too. But I think overall, it's just I think they get a lot of lucky wins.
Because like here's the thing for me. Like every time the Cowboys lose, like you're hearing from the gallows how shit Dak is. But every time that the Cowboys win, it's just like the Cowboys had a good win. Like there's times where Dak carries that team, and he doesn't get half the credit he deserves on it. Like, am I gonna say he's an elite quarterback? No. Am I gonna say he's a top 12 quarterback? Yes. I think he's at the bottom of that list, but I do think that he's a top 12 quarterback, and I think that he could be towards the top 10 quarterback. He has the weapons, and that benefits him. He has a good offensive line, that benefits him. He has a good running game, average running game at this point. Tony Pollard is playing good, but like not to the level that we were hoping.
Right.
With that being said, it's one of those things where like he's got the talent and he's got the cannon, he's got good accuracy. Like if Dak Prescott was my quarterback right now, I'd be happy. Like, yeah, honestly,
he's not a bad quarterback, and typically he's not the reason they lose. But
it's just annoying that the Cowboys got another starting quarterback in a late round. That's why people are pissed. Like people hate the fact that they got Tony Romo late and then they got Dak Prescott to follow him up late.
Yeah, I mean, but like with Dak though, when you're paying him the money that they're paying him, your expectations go almost to unrealistic land, right? Almost into the realm of unrealism. Like he's getting paid a bag and a fucking half, and he's not performing up to that standard that people artificially set in their mind when they see that price tag. I think it was where a lot of that hatred's coming from.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: if you had to pick 3 quarterbacks, pick out of 3 quarterbacks to be in your franchise, in what order would you go? Tua, Hurts, Prescott.
Hurts.
I'm going Tua. Let's do start bench cut. I'm starting Tua. I'm benching Hurts. I'm cutting Prescott, even though but I think there's a discussion to be had. That's why I brought it up. Even though I would cut Prescott, I think this is a discussion to be had because he is that good of a quarterback. You see how you guys hesitated? You're thinking about it. Okay, why the fuck does Dak get all this hate all the time? And that's coming from a Steelers fan. I fucking hate the Cowgirls, man.
I think Dak's a top 12 to 15 QB. I think
that's what I was saying. Yeah,
has weapons that can make for the potential, especially fantasy wise, that he could finish higher than that. But from the eye test, what I see, he's overall his career stats and year in and year out, he's efficient. He's normally fairly efficient. He has bad games where he has his interception totals are high because when he has a bad game, he doesn't just have 1 or 2 interceptions. He goes all the way bad and throws 4. And
Jameis Winston, 30 for 30, baby. Let's go.
Right. But the thing I think the reason I don't think Dak's elite is because when you take away his playmakers, when you take away CeeDee Lamb, you play in a team that has a shutdown quarter that makes CeeDee Lamb's day hard, and you have a defensive front that you're playing against that can limit the run game, and you're okay, it's time for our franchise quarterback to make some plays, get other people involved and win. He's had many opportunities to do that, and he falls flat on his face 100% of the time in those opportunities. And
no, he doesn't. He doesn't fall on his face 100%. I would agree that he doesn't do it as consistently as you'd like. But there's been plenty of times where CeeDee Lamb has 2 or 3 receptions and they still win a game and he has 300 plus passing yards. But that's what I'm talking about. Is it's just I feel like there's just this genuine hatred for Dak Prescott, and I'm like, damn, he's not that bad. But I do want to go.
Definitely deserves to be a starter. The people that think that he should be benched and everything, that's crazy. He's definitely definitely should be starting on a team. But
I want to get you guys start bench cut on that Tua, Hurts, Prescott.
I'm gonna start Hurts, bench Tua, cut Prescott.
Yep.
Ozzy? I'm starting Hurts, but I'm really torn between Dak and Tua on who to bench and who to cut. You know what? I'm gonna when Tua's playing, I gotta bench Tua and cut Dak. But I almost wanted to keep Dak and cut Tua, but I can't.
That's
do
fair.
it.
That does transition us to our next game, though. Dolphins visit the Liberty Bell. Get their asses whooped, 31-17.
Liberty Bell.
That game got interesting from the last 2 minutes of the second quarter and the whole third quarter. The game was interesting, but other than that, the Eagles were controlling the game.
Yep.
And Jalen Hurts played well. He did have an interception. Tua played well. He had an interception. But the Eagles defense keeping the explosive plays under wraps. Tyreek had 11 receptions, but he had only 88 yards, which is a good day. But when you see Tyreek have 11 receptions, you're used to 100.
You're expecting a 200-yard game.
Yeah. And he got his 11 and 88 and a touchdown, but that's holding Tyreek down.
Yeah, that is holding Tyreek down. You're
and
right.
if Mostert's only going to get 8 carries for 45 or for 38 yards and no touchdowns, what do you got? Waddle hasn't played to the level that people wanted him to yet this year. He's still a great talent and he'll get his, but if that's all it takes is take Tyreek away and have a good defensive line, that's why I think they could be frauds, offensively at least.
Yeah.
If that's how you beat them offensively, then
yeah, and
yeah,
but at the same time,
also
what you could keep Tyreek in front of you.
Here's the thing too, that's exactly what I was about to say is the guidelines you're laying out are pretty simple, but are they easy to execute? You need to shut down Tyreek Hill, which he's a double team breaker. And that's the scary thing about Tyreek. He beats double teams consistently. Is there even a discussion to be? Is there even a discussion to be had that Tyreek Hill isn't the best wide receiver in the NFL?
No, I think he is. I think before injury, JJ was a conversation, but I think like it was on a scale of 1 to 10. Tyreek is 10 out of 10, and then like there was 3 of them that were like 9.8 for me, and that was Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson. And
I wouldn't even put Jamar Chase in that conversation.
As of right now, I think the only other receiver that's played there's 2 receivers that have played consistently game week in and week out better than Jamar over the last 2 years is Stephon Diggs and AJ Brown.
But like that kind of
AJ Brown deserves to be way higher in discussions.
Yeah,
I think
especially after this game. You want to talk about dominance by a wide receiver? We're busy talking about Tyreek Hill, and we got AJ Brown right here having a fucking career day.
Yeah, and that's kind of like goes back to my point where like people pay too much attention to the stats and don't watch the film enough. Like a lot of these receivers are really good, and you got people like AJ Brown and Jamar Chase not getting the respect that they deserve purely because people looking at the stats, kind of thing, and going too much off of stats. Because like AJ Brown, Jamar Chase are definitely top receivers in the NFL. There's very few people I'll take over them.
Yeah, that's fair. But going back to the Dolphins, like executing how to actually beat this Dolphins offense is that to even have a chance, you have to have a defensive line like the Eagles have, and that to cover Tyreek, you have to have a defensive line like the Eagles to cover Tyreek, and I mean that as in you have to have a defensive line that can get to Tua fast enough to where Tyreek hasn't had the time to get behind his cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have to make it so they go one dimensional, so you can rush 4, and you're getting enough pressure where that Tyreek doesn't have time to break that double team. That's the big thing. You can't let Tyreek get enough time to beat that double team, and you need to shut down Raheem. Because if Raheem starts going off, then he'll just have a 200-yard game on the ground, and you're fucked. If you stop him, that's step 1, and you get them one-dimensional. Now you got to be able to get to the quarterback fast enough. You need to be able to get to Tua fast enough so then Tyreek can't break your double team. That's how you beat the Dolphins' offense currently. It's easier said than done, but the strategy is there.
Yeah.
Especially if Waddle doesn't step up and Gesicki keeps on being mediocre.
Yeah. Waddle playing to the level that he has the better part of the last 2 seasons would completely change my opinion of the Dolphins a little bit, because then they're not the recipe to beat them isn't so one-dimensional, and because like okay, well we can just Waddle can run it almost as fast as Tyreek, and he's getting open now. Mm-hmm. Or like you said, Gesicki.
I mean, Waddle hasn't been playing bad. Waddle hasn't been playing bad.
Let's put this down real quick, guys. Chase Claypool, is he cursed?
At this point, I mean, kind of.
At first, I wanted to say he was cursed, but like
last overall, 20 games, he's been on 3 teams and has 2 wins.
I think a lot of it has to do now, like at first was his motivation, his self-reflection. I think he got arrogant after his first season, just thought it was just going to be cake and he wasn't going to have to put the work in. And it went to his head and he hasn't responded correctly to it or very well in general. So
Mapletron meets Optimus Prime.
I think he had all the physical tools to be great, but he's losing the mental part of it.
Yeah.
The work ethic part of it.
True.
And
yep.
I agree.
It's a shame.
So,
all right. 49ers Vikings. How we feeling, boys?
That was my surprise game. I did not like, especially once CMC was announced that he's actually playing. Like, I did not expect Minnesota to win that game, even with Debo out. But like, that really shows like, without a full arsenal, like without the offense fully healthy, whether it be missing CMC or missing Debo, just missing one of them, Brock Purdy's been a completely different quarterback the last 2 weeks.
So that's exactly what I wanted to say. With Debo not being there and CMC being injured, he's playing through injury, by the way. Yeah. Let's not forget that. CMC is playing through injury right now, so he's not 100%. And it's really exposed something that's a flaw in Brock Purdy's game. and that's
His
he throws to a
100%
spot on the field.
dependence.
He throws to a spot on the field, not to a player. You
Mhm.
know,
That's the
and that's
system
easy to
QBs.
expose.
That's where their argument is saying he's a system QB. Like their
It's
argument's
holding
valid.
true.
Yeah.
Yep.
And not saying he can't like make the adjustments because he's going to have to, especially if this 49ers team wants to actually win the Super Bowl. They've been exposed a little bit. That's when they're fully healthy and everything's on. They're a little bit better. But the defense is still good this year, but it's not the level that we're used to seeing. Like the last couple of years, you're used to seeing Fred Warner in that linebacking core, like reading the play before it happens and being there. But now it's like they're waiting for it to come to them. The defense seems a step slower over the last season or this season so far. And I don't know, I know I talked a lot of, like I've been saying up until the last 2 weeks, 49ers are the Super Bowl favorites, and there were a lot of everyone's Super Bowl favorites. And I said that the Eagles took a step back, even though they're still a good team, but them getting Kevin Byard and then starting to play better now on offense, like the Eagles might be the team to beat now again.
I still think the 49ers are. I mean, I think they're just hitting a little rough patch. Is bound to happen after going almost like 9-0 as a starter for Brock Purdy. It was bound to happen to have some bad games, and I think it's just part of the
needed it.
Yeah, and I think it's just part of the growing pains. I don't think he's
Exactly.
I think
he'll bounce.
Exactly.
How he finishes the rest of the season is going to tell a lot about the way his career is going to go.
Exactly. And I think you could argue, if you want, that he's a system quarterback or whatever, but I think every quarterback or every really player, a lot of players for that matter, are a system quarterback or system player, right? Because there's the system that the player in has a major impact on how they play on game day, right? Especially for a quarterback. So to extent, like I would argue, every quarterback is a system quarterback, but there's a few that kind of defy that.
So here's my thing: we're talking about quarterbacks that defy that. Is Kirk Cousins a top 5 quarterback in the NFL?
I think like I can understand if people don't want to say he locked in is, but to anyone who says that like the conversation isn't there, I think is being disrespectful to him. The man, like
Justin Jefferson's down and he still passed for 400 yards on the best defense in the NFL. Like
primetime Kirk
not get
showed up.
Like, can I say
Mr. Horrible primetime Kirk Cousins showed up and beat the what up until this point everyone said was the number 1 team in the NFL.
Yeah, I would just like to rewind 10 years and go back to when he was playing at Michigan State. Because he was like our last good quarterback. It makes me sad ever since.
No, Kirk Cousins is great. Like
you don't know you in the good times till you after him.
Having him on, like, just like from a fantasy perspective, he's got like 10 top 11 seasons in fantasy and like 5 or 6 top 6 finishes. Like
he is one of the most hated, consistent fantasy quarterbacks.
It's the reason everyone thinks that
question.
The reason everyone thinks he's bad is because the only time the country actually sees him plays is in prime time, and he loses all of his prime time games. That's literally like that right there is his perception. Even though like if you look at his personal statistics and most of the like he has had his fair share of bad prime time games, but like I'd say 70% of the prime time games that he's lost, like he actually played pretty fucking well, and it wasn't his fault they lost those games. So like Kirk is honestly the most underrated player in the entire NFL, and he has been for the past few seasons, not just quarterback, like player in general. Like respect needs to be put on his name. Like he had, like whether people want to admit it or not, he has been a top 10 quarterback for the better part of the past decade.
Shane, what was your question?
Yeah. So this is gonna be my wrap-up question. So are we ready to wrap up, you guys? So Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, 100%.
I think.
All right, guys.
No question. No question.
Easy.
Case in point is like the point that you just pointed out. Like no Justin Jefferson, Kirk got it done. Dak in those situations most of the time does not get it done. Put Kirk on those Cowboys teams
without a run game, too.
Yep.
Nonetheless.
And he's doing. Yeah, and he's doing it without Cook. without Dalvin.
Exactly.
He likes Hawk. For fantasy, I like that.
Fantasy, that's
Yeah.
very good. Fantasy wise, CMC didn't
And
do
Jordan
shit.
Addison. Jordan
I-
Addison, eat your heart out.
My
Fucking
hot take
7
before
receptions,
we,
2
before we,
touchdowns, 123.
I got a hot take before we take off from here. That just might turn into a couple minute discussion. But
Mhm.
Addison season, your buy low period's over already. But I do think like with Kirk's upcoming contract situation, Justin Jefferson's upcoming contract situation, his current injury and how long he's sitting out, and the fact that if Cousins does stay with the Vikings, it's probably gonna be like a 2-year deal max, and Jefferson doesn't want to waste some more years. Like he wants to go to a contender probably. I think that Justin Jefferson has played his last game in a Vikings uniform. I don't think he plays again this season. I think he rides it out, gets healthy all the way. They haven't even started talking about their contract extension with him. They're tabling it till the end of the season anyways. And I think like
They got him
Chiefs
for
or the
2 more
Bill-
years.
if the-
Because they got
Chiefs
fifth
or the-
year.
If the Chiefs or the Bills come knocking, like,
No, the Vikings
I
got
think
him for
he's
2 more
gone.
years for sure. Like they have him 2 more years because they got 5th year because he's a first round. But with that being said, I see what you're saying, but also like, like, do the Vikings even resign Kirk Cousins? And like,
They
here's a
should.
question I just thought of, which I
That's
wasn't
fu-
even
that-
thinking of up until this point. Is there a chance that the Vikings organization was trying to tank to compensate to go get a elite young quarterback, let Kirk Cousins walk? Was that the idea that the Vikings organization might have had going into the season, and now their plans kind of falling apart?
circling
So-
back real quick, Justin Jefferson's contract ends after next season, the 2024 season.
Well,
Yeah,
so,
so they still got him for 2 years.
so 2024 is his 5th-year option, but that comes with a $20 million price tag.
But
That's
also,
not okay, but you're
Justin
getting one of the best
Jefferson
wide receivers in
wants
the
to
NFL for
play
20
with
mil.
Kirk. Justin Jefferson wants to play with Kirk Cousins, is like what he says from his own mouth. So if they don't re-sign Kirk, or he feels like they're not gonna re-sign Kirk, that's when I see him potentially just saying "fuck it" and sitting out the rest of the season because the guy he wants throwing him the ball is not going to be there. That's when he's going to be like, "I'm out."
Yeah, but like
And especially since the rest of the team is abysmal right now.
they could afford it, but taking on that 20 mil cap hit would severely hurt the Vikings because that would leave them 15 mil for every other thing, whatever else they need, right? So like that's a mighty big pill to swallow. Even though right now, as it stands for 2024, they could afford it, but like, do they take that hit? That's a big question, and one that like it because from what he said, like kind of when we go back to Travis said, like he wants to play with Kirk, and it kind of seems like that he would follow Kirk wherever he goes. So if they try and sign him to that 5th-year option, and he decides that he wants to sit out, that's just money sitting there. That's dead cap sitting there.
A team like think about like that is lacking of a true number one receiver and has question marks going in the next season at quarterback. And I think that they're overachieving right now and playing themselves out of getting Caleb Williams or somebody like that. But Arizona like could move on from Kyler and take on Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson.
They could, but I don't think they will.
That'd be so wild. They got the cap space to do it though,
Yeah, they do.
and
One of the
they
few
got
teams
draft
that could.
capital to go ahead and build around them.
And if they did that, then they can just focus on defense.
Or what about the
So-
Bears?
No.
I don't see that happening just because it's interdivision.
That'd be wild though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Imagine
Cardinals
Kirk
barely-
and JJ and Bears unis.
Cardinals
Only other-
barely have the cap space.
But I just, if something
Well,
like that
without
doesn't
Kyler, they
happen-
definitely would.
Yeah, because if they get rid of Kyler, that would change it.
Not really.
But I just
It's like 40 mil a
I
year,
think-
dude. What the fuck?
I
you
think
mean?
Jefferson wants to go somewhere where he's gonna get a chip, like be a championship contender, like, and the Chiefs can use a true number one wide receiver, even if they already have a number one target in Kelsey. But like, he's 34, he's old goods, he's aging goods. Josh Allen has one legitimate target in Stephon Diggs, and he's 30. He's 29 going on 30. He's gonna be aging goods. It's like Trevor Lawrence could use him. Justin Herbert could use him. That Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are both aging goods, and Quentin Johnson hasn't stepped up. Freaking Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley's going on 30. He hasn't been impressive this year. Christian Kirk's been all right, but like if Justin Jefferson's there, then he's obviously going to be the one. But like,
All right.
but there's a lot of young quarterbacks that could use a guy like Jefferson that don't have that stud. Like I'm keeping like Tua, Burrow, and Jalen Hurts. I'm keeping out of it because they got like the receiving core is fine. They don't need. I'm not saying that they wouldn't accept him, but they don't need him.
Yeah, I would love to see them, Kirk Cousins and JJ on the Cardinals, but like Kyler Murray's contract situation is just so hard to fathom and swallow. Because that's such a massive contract, and that's so much dead money. If they cut him or trade him, that the Cardinals would have to essentially pay for it unless another team offered up. But like, I don't think another team's going to just fully take on that contract.
They're going to have to try, because I think that the Kyler that we got to see the last probably 20 to 25 regular season games, we saw him healthy before he got hurt. Like the first 2.5 seasons of Kyler's career, he was electric. He was terrific.
Mm-hmm.
But the next 2.5, the next 2 seasons, Joshua Dobbs has arguably played just as fucking good as he has.
Yeah,
if not slightly better. And like Kyler's teams, when that downward play started, were still fucking good on paper. Like,
yeah, I don't disagree.
So like, they're gonna move on from Kyler 100%.
Because like 2024, they have a dead cap.
Is Kyler's career over?
I don't think it's over.
It's not over.
Like if people like Geno Smith can get a second chance, Baker Mayfield's still getting a chance. Like
Kyler is good enough.
Still holding on to Mac Jones. Kyler will get an opportunity somewhere, especially like with all the QB questions on a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, Travis. Why don't you send us out?
Well, thank you for joining us today, guys. This is our first time on Facebook and YouTube live for this, and thank you for tuning in for those that did, and thank you for everyone who kept turning into Shane's Twitch as well while we're streaming. Always remember that's up, and we're gonna keep coming out with content. We have a lot of big things coming up in the future. With our website's coming up, I made the business page as well. We're gonna have merch coming soon, and don't forget the trunk or treat this Saturday, the 28th, from 2 to 5 p.m. at the One Nation Tap in Battle Creek. So let's do this. Everyone, have a good night. I'm gonna fucking reach through that goddamn.
Austin, I'm going to shoot you. I will shoot you dead, Austin. End the fucking recording. End the fucking recording, Austin.
Good night.